Welcome to the deep dive. Forget the usual space news for a moment because we've got something truly exceptional to unpack with you today.
Yeah, something really different.
A first of its kind journey that gave us an entirely new perspective on our own planet.
That's right. We're diving into the SpaceX Fram 2 mission. This was a flight that achieved a historical first, a direct polar orbit over Antarctica, and crewed by civilian astronauts.
Exactly. And we've got some fascinating material to look at. A detailed news article about the mission itself, the buzz around it, plus, firsthand observations shared directly by one of the astronauts on X.
Formerly Twitter, right.
Right. So our goal in this deep dive is to really understand what made this particular polar view so unique and maybe what it tells us. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's maybe start with the mission's path. Why orbiting directly over the poles is such a big deal.
Okay, so the Frame 2 mission wasn't your, let's say, typical trip to space. This is the very first time a crewed spacecraft went directly over Earth's north and south poles. Now, just for context, the International Space Station, which you hear about constantly, orbits at an angle, right? About 51.6 degrees relative to the equator.
Yeah, it doesn't go over the poles themselves.
Fram 2 went right over the top and the bottom.
And that's a really crucial difference. Achieving a direct polar orbit like that, it takes considerably more energy compared to the more common orbits, like the ISS's inclined one.
Makes sense.
But this unique trajectory allowed these astronauts a view of the polar regions that's just completely unprecedented. It's perspective even folks on the ISS haven't really experienced directly overhead like this.
And they were observing from pretty high up, about 285 miles or 460 kilometers.
Right.
And from that vantage point, the site of Antarctica, well, it seems to have been truly remarkable. One of the astronauts, Chen Wang, shared his initial impressions on X. He posted, and I'm quoting here, "Hello, Antarctica. Unlike previously anticipated, from 460 kilometers above, it is only pure white, no human activity is visible."
Wow. What strikes me about that observation is just its simplicity and the powerful image it creates.
Yeah.
Only pure white, no human activity visible. It really makes you pause and reconsider any assumptions you might have had about Antarctica, maybe fleeting thoughts of research stations or some sign of human presence down there.
Totally.
To see it as just this vast, seemingly untouched sheet of white that must have been incredibly impactful.
Beyond just the visual, though, what does this pure white really tell us that maybe other satellite images or observations haven't quite captured in the same way?
That's a really good question. I think it emphasizes the sheer scale and remoteness, doesn't it? Just how vast and empty it appears from that specific viewpoint.
And apparently the crew captured a 6-minute video of this view. I mean, you can only imagine the perspective that offers. The article mentions a vibrant landscape, but vibrant in its unbroken whiteness, it sounds like.
Precisely. It's a different kind of vibrancy, isn't it? That stark, intense white against the blackness of space, and the astronauts specifically mentioning no visible human activity. That truly underscores just how isolated and immense Antarctica really is. It really hammers home the scale of the continent.
Now, this incredible view wasn't just like through a standard little spacecraft window. They filmed it through the Dragon's cupola. Can you tell us a bit about that? It sounds pretty special.
Oh yeah, the cupola is a fascinating piece of engineering on SpaceX's Crew Dragon. It's basically this big panoramic dome made entirely of glass. It gives the crew a full 360-degree view of space and Earth below.
Wow.
It's specifically designed for observation, really. So the remarkable clarity of that pure white view was definitely helped by the unique vantage point the cupola provides.
That makes sense. Which explains why they could capture such compelling footage. And it sounds like the crew really embraced the moment, too. The article describes this lighthearted bit where Chen Wang playfully put his sock-clad feet up on the cupola window,
Yeah, I saw that.
pretending to do a spacewalk. Apparently it got a good laugh from the crew. It's just a great reminder that these are, real people experiencing something totally extraordinary.
Absolutely. That human touch, it really brings the story to life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about the tech achievement. It's also about the sense of wonder, the personal experience of seeing our planet like this for the first time.
Yeah.
It makes me think, has there ever been an image from space that particularly struck you like that? One that really changed how you saw a place?
Oh, that's a good one. The classic Apollo 8 Earthrise photo always gets me. Seeing that fragile blue marble just hanging there in the blackness.
The ultimate overview effect picture.
Exactly. It just instantly gives you this sense of both beauty and, like, vulnerability. And maybe this pure white Antarctica view, in its own way, offers a similar kind of stark beauty and a reminder of its untouched nature.
That's a great parallel.
And speaking of the people on board Frem 2, it's really significant that they were all civilian astronauts. You had Chun Wang from China, Jannica Mikkelsen from Norway, Rabea Roge from Germany, and Eric Phillips from Australia. None had flown in space before.
Right.
That feels like a pretty big step in making space, well, maybe a bit more accessible.
It truly highlights how the landscape of space travel is evolving, doesn't it? This wasn't a crew of, career NASA or ESA's astronauts. It was this diverse group undertaking this incredible journey, partly for research, partly for the experience itself.
And the mission itself was pretty short, right? Planned for just 2 to 4 days.
Yeah, relatively brief.
But even in that short time, they had a packed schedule, didn't they? Something like over 22 experiments planned, all focused on observing the polar regions from that unique low Earth orbit.
That's right, a busy few days.
So what kind of research really benefits from that specific polar perspective? What can you see from directly overhead that you maybe can't see as well from an inclined orbit like the ISS?
Well, observing the poles from that direct overhead angle gives you really valuable data for several fields. Think about glaciology, for instance.
Okay, ice sheets.
Exactly. You can potentially get more accurate measurements of ice sheet coverage, changes in ice mass, maybe without the visual clutter you sometimes get from coastal infrastructure, or oblique angles.
Right.
And for atmospheric studies, that vantage point allows for unique observations of polar weather patterns, the upper atmosphere up there. Aurora, maybe.
Oh, interesting.
And just for Earth observation more generally, it offers a less distorted sort of top-down view of these really critical regions.
That makes perfect sense. And the trip home was also a bit different this time, wasn't it? The article mentioned the resilient spacecraft doing its deorbit burn that's firing the engines to slow down and start heading back, right?
Correct, the braking maneuver.
Followed by a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. That's actually a first for SpaceX crewed missions, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. The previous Crew Dragon missions, like the NASA ones and Inspiration 4, they all splashed down in the Atlantic or the Gulf of Mexico.
Ah.
So this shift to the Pacific, it adds to SpaceX's operational experience, gives them more flexibility for landing zones in the future, and the schedule had them returning around April 4th, so they should be safely back by now.
Good point. Now, it's always interesting to see how the public reacts to these kinds of, well, groundbreaking events. The article shared some responses to Chun Wang's video on X. One user commented on the pure awesomeness of the insights and just marveled at the tech that lets a person share that kind of view from space.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Knowing how rarely we see this part of the world so directly, what kind of impact do you think those images might have had on people?
I think that comment really captures the sense of awe, the wonder the space exploration still inspires. Seeing those images, reading the astronauts' own words, it creates this powerful connection to the experience. It reminds us of the incredible engineering and human effort involved.
Yeah. Definitely. And another commenter reflected on the profound isolation of Antarctica, described it as so far removed from everything, so untouched and quiet. They mentioned the humbling perspective of seeing that pure white expanse with no sign of human activity, which, yeah, it really makes you think about our place in the bigger picture.
And that's a really significant takeaway, isn't it? This apparently pristine view, no visible human footprint from 460 kilometers up.
Yeah.
It's a potent reminder of Antarctica's unique, isolated status.
Yeah.
It gives us a different lens to think about our relationship to the planet, maybe our responsibility to preserve places like that.
The article also briefly touched on some related space news, like NASA assigning astronauts for future SpaceX flights, other crews returning, just putting it in context.
Right, exactly.
It shows that Fram 2, while really unique in its trajectory and crew, is part of this much larger ongoing effort in space exploration, international cooperation, all of that.
Precisely. It highlights that while Fram 2 definitely broke new ground, it's also woven into this continuous human quest for knowledge and exploration beyond Earth.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize what we have explored in this deep dive for our listeners. What's the essential thing to take away from the Fram 2 mission?
I think the core insight really is that unprecedented direct polar orbit view of Antarctica, seen by human eyes for the first time from that specific angle.
Right.
What the astronauts saw and shared that image of a pure white continent, apparently empty of any visible human presence from orbit. It just offers a really stark, thought-provoking perspective on this incredibly remote part of our world.
Absolutely. Understanding this unique event gives us a fascinating glimpse into, well, the expanding capabilities of space travel, but also the breathtaking, almost raw beauty of a part of our planet most of us only ever see in photos or maps.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder of both our tech achievements and the still wild nature that exists right here on Earth.
Which leads to a pretty compelling question for you, the listener, to maybe ponder.
Yeah.
Considering this unique polar vantage point over Antarctica, what other perspectives and insights might future polar orbit missions offer us? How could viewing Earth's other diverse landscapes, maybe other remote regions or environmentally critical areas from these kinds of novel angles, further shape how we understand our planet and maybe our impact on it? It's literally and figuratively a whole new way of seeing our world.